Everyone, this is Ron Klopfanstein, and this is the Hot Seat on our Media Monday. My guest today is Zach Lewis. He is the author of Clinton and Kirkland, Past and Present, a new book that just came out last Monday, and it has these wonderful photographs of places in Clinton that exist now, as they appear now, compared to photos of them from the past. So, Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell the readers a little bit about this book that you just wrote and that just came out a week ago?
I will, but before we do that, I just have to give a round of applause to the last DJ that was here because
Dr. Joss,
this
amazing.
is
Appreciate that.
having been a radio DJ for a few years. He's actually doing the real thing of spinning.
Yes,
records.
he certainly is.
we live, yeah.
Right. You're
live.
spinning, right? So that's
Definitely
just
live.
very much impressive to me.
I
So
appreciate
The
that.
energy
Thank you,
here is
thank you.
amazing, isn't it?
It is,
It
it is.
really is. You can hear it through the airwaves. Too,
yes,
you know?
amazing just to see the turntables turning.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
All right. So what are we chatting about now?
So your book. So tell us about this book. So the people listening to it over the
Yes.
airwaves, they can't see the pictures, but they are pretty amazing. And I love the way that you presented them, right, with the comparison to the current and past.
So we chatted a little bit before the show here, and I said I was collecting. Well, I guess I should probably back up all the way. Maybe
Yes.
give a little bit of a bio.
Tell
here.
us the story. Yes.
So
who is Zach?
who am I? Well, I guess we'll say for the most part, born and raised in Clinton. There was a short amount of time when I lived in Knoxboro, which is out by Munnsville. That was a few years, and then my original family for generations have lived in Clinton. My family.
How many back?
I want to say 5.
That's
so,
impressive, but I have to say my family goes back 7 generations in Westmoreland.
in Westmoreland, right?
So,
right.
so you're a newcomer. You know,
Somewhat,
it's-
somewhat.
Five isn't nothing, but you know.
Somewhat. Well, I will say that my grandfather had a milk and dairy business where he delivered.
Hey, just
so
like
he
my
probably
grandfather.
all right. There it
Tried
is.
business together.
See, probably. So my grandfather was really probably the main inspiration for the book. Like I said, I was born and raised in
And what was your
Clinton.
grandfather's name?
Carl Christ. He owned Christ Brothers, spelled like Christ, Christ Brothers Milk and Dairy business. Originally, he wasn't able to really help a lot with the ice business because the blocks of ice were really heavy, and he was a kid at the time.
Yeah.
But he did help with the milk business, and his big story is on his first day in the milk business as a delivery man. He fell down, but didn't break any bottles. You know, that's his story. So who knows if we can really fact check that. But from there, just having a grandfather who lived in Clinton for so long, he would tell stories, and he was the type of guy where if he told a story, he expected you to know who the person was, where they live, and all of the, who, what, where, when, why. And if you didn't, he would tell you,
He would tell you.
how
He
could
would
you not
tell-
know
he
this
would tell
person?
you.
Right. So I realized at a young age that, he knew a lot about Clinton, and we could chat about that. As I got older, I went into the Historical Society, the Clinton Historical Society, where I'm currently a board member.
It's a nice one.
It is, and we have a great museum
You have a
downstairs.
museum, yeah.
And once I joined the Historical Society, I got a few more stories that we could have chatted about together.
Yeah.
And let me just grab a sip of water here.
So in the Historical Society, I actually was the president of the Westmoreland Historical Society.
Yes.
And I know that they're really a good source of information, just to talk to the people in them who remember the past,
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why it was enjoyable to hear my grandfather's stories over and over and over, and then
Yeah.
go to the Historical Society and kind of, fact check or, get the story
Verify.
100%. And then, I would go back and we'd have a great conversation about it. And
What are some of the best stories, and what are some of the most memorable stories that you remember hearing about from your grandfather?
there were so many, and they were over and over and over again. But just talking about the bakery that used to be in the village, that was probably around the 40s. I
What was
believe
it
was
called?
was it the Clinton Standard Bakery? I want to say. And he would talk about that and just various spots, Grover Cleveland's house and things like that. But one of the
Grover Cleveland's house is in Clinton?
Yes.
I did not know
Oh, yeah.
that.
Grover Cleveland lived in Clinton for about, I want to say 2 or 3 years as a child.
Really?
Yeah, and his big dream was to go to Hamilton College, but his
Was he
father
able to do
died,
that?
unfortunately, and he had to, care for the family. And
it probably cost a lot even back then, I would imagine.
maybe, it was probably a better deal though.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's probably expensive, but a better deal than today. But yeah, so Grover Cleveland lived in Clinton, and one of the stories is that his sister also lived there. Right, the whole family lived there, and she fell into the fountain that's in the
Oh,
village
my
green.
gosh.
Yeah, so that's the president's sister fell into
That's quite a start.
and Grover too. His sister, who was from this area, Holland Patton, actually, I believe, is where she lived
Oh, yeah?
throughout the rest of her life. She was the first lady in the White House because Grover Cleveland wasn't married in his first term.
Wow,
So
I did
Grover,
not know that.
Grover Cleveland is our only two-term
Clinton.
president, non-consecutive. So he's our only non-consecutive two-term president.
Interesting.
Currently, and with that, that's our big claim to fame is him and Elihu Root.
Yeah.
Elihu Root was a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Oh, like the Root Glenn.
Right, like Root Glenn.
What did he win a Nobel Peace Prize for?
Good question, but he was. I think it says on the back of the book. I'm terrible when it comes to numbers
I
because
don't have my
they
glasses,
flip
but
in my
I'm
head.
gonna assume that. I'll hand you the book.
But he was a Secretary of War and.
Oh, okay. So when he served in government.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure where we were going with that, but I was going to tell
I
a
was just
story.
impressed because most of us know what Root Glenn.
Oh, right.
Right.
We're chatting about Grover.
It's a beautiful thing, and yeah.
And actually, that might be the reason why from Ohio, the book was number 17 in Ohio.
I noticed you were talking about that on Amazon.
Yeah, and that might be
Good for
because
you.
it mentions
Take your
Grover
fans where you can
Cleveland.
get 'em, it's
hey,
like a sales to
that's
sale.
what I say. I'm going to take it as a win because
Take it as a
Grover
win.
Cleveland is mentioned a bunch, and he did come back to Clinton, and during the bicentennial or the centennial again.
Yeah.
But Clinton was very much decorated for that. He came back. They had signs.
Yeah.
Where the Alexander Hamilton Inn used to be, and now it's the Alexander Hamilton Institute. That building was all decorated for him when he came here. And then the other spot, that was actually more for his wife.
Yeah.
And he went down to the old, what do we call it? A railway house, we'll say.
Oh, I know.
Kind of like a rail house.
Yeah, right.
And where the Clinton apartments are now,
Yep.
kind of down the hill there into the village. And right behind there, it looks like a garage, but that is the original, what do we just call it? A rail house.
Yeah, right.
That's the original house back there that Grover Cleveland had a meeting in when he was here in Clinton.
Wow.
So that is still here. They just
still there.
moved it to build
Yeah.
the apartments. They moved it into
Oh,
the
I
back,
see.
and now the people who are in the apartments use that rail house as like storage or garage area. So it's still there.
So, what location did you find most interesting in your book?
Probably the one, the most boring of them all. It was just a culvert where the Shenango Canal used to go under. And again,
It kind of cuts through the high
right,
school there,
College
you
Street.
know?
College Street.
Right. So, what interests you about that?
Well, my house is on the Oriskany, so I live in Clinton, like I said, and my house is on the Oriskany. So flooding.
You Whiskey Creek?
Yes, yep. And you say crick, that's perfect because you're from
That's a
Westmoreland.
Westmoreland
Yes,
thing.
yes, it is.
We
It is.
call it crick.
It is, and
So, what do they call it over in
Oh no, we do. My
Is it
grandfather
crick?
always called it crick.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, so I always say crick in
Gotta
honor of
be
my
crick,
grandfather,
gotta be
right?
crick, yeah.
So I live on the Oriskany Crick, and flooding is obviously a big thing in Clinton. And being on that water, it's more of a it's in your face, I guess, every day.
Yeah.
But one of the big floods, I think it was 2017. I wasn't quite living down in the village area
Right,
yet.
there's a picture of that in the book.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And actually, I just had a photo gallery up at the Kirkland Town Library, and there was a couple of flooding photos that shows this one that I'm going to get to here in a minute.
Yeah.
But that culvert there that I was talking about, they had recently redone it. They had new bricks and things like that. And in 2017, we had this kind of flash flooding.
Yeah.
And that bare, empty Shenango Canal filled up. And if you're not quite sure what we're talking about, it used to be where the old Clinton tailor used to be, the tailor shop.
Okay.
And right there,
And it kind of goes underground,
It
like at
does.
the dollar store, like the parking lot of the dollar store that used to be the grocery store, like it goes under.
around that area, yep. And so where that culvert is anyway, it filled up with water right up to the top. And the water couldn't really go through fast enough, so it started to back up. And there was a car on the road, and a car got swept up into the water, and almost it didn't, because I think they were able to
Water's
back it
powerful.
up. Yeah, they were able to get out of I guess, the flow of the water, so that they didn't go into the culvert. But that one there is probably one of my favorites, just because it's number one, random, and number two, they had an old photo of it, so you know.
Right, and you matched the two photos up. Yeah.
Yeah, and a while ago when they originally did that culvert, I did the story for the Waterville Times, so it kind of is a full circle.
So yeah, right.
But it's not my favorite page. My favorite page.
What's your favorite page?
My favorite page in there is the Kirkland Town Library.
And why?
Because the Kirkland Town Library opened on my birthday back in 1901.
It did.
Yes, and of course I was born then as well.
What's the date?
1901, December 11th. Oh, I didn't give the date. Yeah,
yeah.
December 11th. 1901 is when the
Well, that's
Kirkland
cool
Town
to
Library.
share your birthday with the library.
Yeah, so let's see.
Okay.
What am I going to get? So, you know,
right.
some birthday
You
candles.
see, you became a writer. You read books. Awesome.
So the Kirkland Town Library opened on December 11th, 1901, and the next day in the village of Clinton, they had a big celebration because on the 12th, the first trolley came to town.
Okay.
And that was a big deal. So within a 2-day period here, we have the library opening, and the first trolley came into the village.
It must have been a really exciting time for the town.
I would imagine.
Because they could get on the trolley, go to Utica, shop.
Waterville.
Yeah, like what places that they wouldn't be able to get to before. So that must have been a really important time for us in town.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Super exciting.
And we went from canal to railroad to car.
true. Yes,
That was the transportation process.
Absolutely,
Well,
yeah.
horses first, obviously. That's how everybody got here from the Connecticut area, was from horses, and then throughout the ages, obviously, we had different transportation. And the buildings in the village, they show that. They show how the railroad was there and the canal was there. That building that we were just talking
Where
about.
would the railroad? Well, we know where the railroad is because we see the buildings along College Street
Right.
that are like kind of shaped oddly. to fit
And
in.
that's why. That's why. So where we were just talking about that culvert, so on one side of the Taylor building
Okay.
was the canal, and on the other side was the railroad.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it kind of had both on either
Right,
side of it.
right.
And each of those buildings, the old tailor shop and the Rock, where I think you were hanging out.
And we're in the next segment. We're going to talk about that. Kim Meyer's here. She grew up in the town, and she's got lots of. We're going to talk all about Down's Rock.
And so that building is also at an angle because of the railroad as well.
That's why
So-
it's looked like it. And that's an historical building too.
Yes.
Now, since we're talking about that neighborhood, let me ask you. You said this one and this one's not in the book. But what's the story behind that building that's round? That's kind of across from Down's Rock. That it's a key bank now. I think it was. I believe it's always been a key bank.
Well, Kim can probably tell us more about that because I think around, I don't know, when were you living there?
Well, Kim, we're going to bring you.
Well, we'll bring Kim in a minute, but
Kim?
that used to be a hot dog stand, and I was asking Kim if she
maybe
remembers
we'll-
that
maybe
was the
we'll
hot
quiz
dog
her.
The hot
stand.
dog stand was before my time.
Okay, all right. So around that area used to be a hot dog stand that people still chat about. So that's what was in that
Let me ask
vicinity.
you now, what
Yeah.
surprised you the most in doing your? What are some of the things that really surprised you? Like when you did your research and found out the story behind some of these places, or went to get a picture of things. What surprised you? Has there been anything you expected to be changed more that was more like it was before? Or that's or
I'm ready to
maybe
talk here.
something where like there's been a big huge change and you kind of thought, oh, it must have always looked like this, but then you go see it and it's like, no, I guess it's always
Yeah, so there are a few of those places, but I guess one of the biggest surprises that I had was that I didn't realize that Millard Fillmore's brother, so our president,
Another president.
another president.
all these connections.
I know, yeah. His brother actually taught at one of the first schools in Cleveland.
Really?
Yeah, so that was probably
Like
one
in a
of the-
public school or college?
back then they didn't have public schools. It was all the one-room schoolhouses.
Oh, right. So just
every
a school.
yeah, every few houses they had to have, a one-room
Yeah,
schoolhouse.
we had 17 in West.
And I think Clinton had, and again these numbers go all over the place,
I
but
believe
it's
it's-
like 50 or something. I mean, we had a crazy
There
number.
would
We
have
had
been a
30,
lot, yes,
let's
yes.
say.
Because kids would have to walk, like even in the
Right.
winter time, and back then the winters would be always had snow. It was always cold.
And Clinton was known as school town because we
Oh, it
had so
was.
many one-room schoolhouses. I think that's, I didn't name a chapter that, but I wanted to
That's
because
a
there's
nice
so many.
distinction to be education.
Yes, Clinton has always kind of been
Colleges,
anchored
too,
with,
you know.
with education, with Hamilton pretty much being created before 1812, which is when they kind of got their charter. But we're going all the way back to 1787. Again, numbers always flip in my head, but it's all in the book there. But Hamilton is I believe the third oldest college in New York.
Wow.
So that opened under Samuel Kirkland.
Yeah.
He opened that.
He was one of the founders of the town, right?
Right.
Which
But
is
originally,
where Kirkland, the name.
right, and he was a reverend, so
Yeah.
he wanted to open a school, and he also worked with the indigenous people who lived
Okay.
in the area. He taught at the Oneidas, and he wanted to open a school where Oneida children and the children of the settlers who came to Clinton could go to school together
Okay.
and have a good education. It didn't really work out, I think, the way that he wanted.
It was a nice idea.
Right. I think the idea was there, but it just didn't work out, I think, the way that they wanted. But the reason why we have Hamilton College is because Samuel Kirkland brought this idea to George Washington and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. If you've driven around, George Washington had a lot of land here.
Yeah.
And
right.
in Clinton there is...
I actually think like part of the land that my husband and I lived on was part of the
Oh, probably. Yes.
Washington
tract.
Yeah.
Yep.
The tract.
Yep.
Yes. Right.
And so Kirkland went to Washington and Alexander Hamilton and said, hey, I have an idea for this school. What do you think? They gave him the blessing, and Alexander Hamilton's name was put on it because he was one of the first trustees, you know.
Couldn't keep his like
Right, kind of putting his name
his
on
name on it. Yeah.
It was originally the Oneida Hamilton Institute, I want to say. But again, a few years later, it didn't really work out the way that they wanted.
Yeah.
And it morphed into what we call Hamilton College today.
And it was there was a women's college too. There was steps up there.
That was in the
Sandra went to school.
right,
And,
60s and 70s. It was Kirkland College.
So when we come back from this break, we're going to talk to Kim Meyer, who grew up in Clinton, and who I think of as another expert. So we're going to ask her some questions about what she remembers of the town, and we'll have more conversation about Clinton and Kirkland, past and present.
When I'm looking for bank, it's
Just like when you pay out talk to them, but not to the microphone.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Hot Seat. I'm Ron Klopfanstein, and this is a Media Monday. We are joined today by Zach Lewis, who is the author of Clinton and Kirkland, Past and Present, a book that compares photographs of places in Clinton as they look now, compared to as they look back in the past. And we're also joined by Kim Meyer, who grew up in Clinton. Her name was Kim Bacon, and she grew up right across from the movie
The
theater.
Cannonball, the Cannonball movie theater.
Yes.
And now it's an apartment.
Last night we went to Don's Rock. It was my first time there, so we got to experience a real iconic Clinton landmark.
Right, ooh.
So do you have
Yeah.
some stories about Don's Rock, or you went somewhere else though? I think.
Well, no, we used to, in 92 or so, we go to a place called Nell's, which is under the Clinton House.
So what's the Clinton House?
The Clinton House was a restaurant. It's, I think Hamilton College owns it now.
Oh, is that the
big
Alexander
house?
Hamilton? It's the institute, right?
Yes.
Yes.
The big house.
Separate from the college, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
Yeah. But so that was what was that called?
The
Alexander.
bar, it was at Alexander Hamilton, I think.
Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, but the bar underneath was Nell's, and that was where I had my first legal drink.
You did.
Yes.
So what was that drink?
I don't know, but I know I went in at midnight on my birthday, so I just turned 21.
Just one of the minute.
And
Yes.
I got hiccups from the drink, and the bartender gave me a straw and told me to
Yes.
put it under my tongue and to drink a fizzy drink with the straw under my tongue. The hiccups go away.
Did
It actually worked.
Well, that's a good trick to
Yeah, I remember that.
To remember that. So did you ever get videos at the store called Video?
The one in the Clinton Shopping Center near McDonald's, and I think there was another one.
Because I had forgotten that place even existed until I saw the book, and I was like, oh, I remember that.
We didn't have a VCR, so I didn't.
Oh, you
I would
didn't?
get all
So
my
you had no-
videos from the grocery store, and I would also rent the VCR at the same time. and bring it
Really?
home.
At the grocery store?
Yeah, the Great American.
I didn't know that.
I also worked at Great American.
You also
so,
worked at the
yeah.
grocery store. So Zach, what's the history
Yes.
of the grocery store there? It was a Victory Market at one time.
Yes.
It was a Great American.
Yep. And
But
so
the paycheck still said Victory Market when I worked there.
Oh, it did,
Yeah.
even though it was called Great
I
I
American?
think they had some
It
sort
was
of
a-
buyout
Yeah.
or something like that. But That land behind there was part of Williams, who owned the Alexander Hamilton. But that house, the actual person who owned that house, that was his land.
Oh, okay.
And he had, from everything that I've been able to read, there were gardens and just a lot of beautiful things. There are trees. One of the trees that was planted there is the ginkgo biloba tree,
Oh,
which
the
is
famous tree.
the famous
Yes.
tree, which is no
Right.
longer there. And the reason is, it was cut down. I don't have my notes. I want to say 2017, 16-ish.
Fairly recently.
Yeah, it hasn't been 10 years yet.
Yeah.
But the reason that had to get cut down, and it had been almost 200 years old, this tree.
It was very important as a historic tree.
Right.
Yeah.
People talk about their first kiss there, high
Yeah.
schoolers, or
Oh, so
having
when
their,
you had your first
their
kiss,
cigarettes.
It
At-
was not.
at-
But I
at
used
the
to climb it
ginkgo
if the
tree?
snowbanks were big enough. So.
But you used to what?
I used to climb it if the snowbanks were tall enough so I could reach a branch. I
Oh,
would climb
okay.
up, but no
Well,
kiss.
if you had your first kiss here, you would remember it
Oh,
forever.
definitely.
That's what ginkgo does.
Well, anyway, the sad part of it is.
Anyway, back to the story.
the sad part about it is when the Victory was built, they paved that.
Oh,
They
yeah.
paved
It's
it.
all parking lot. pretty
And
much.
so
Yeah.
they left some space for the tree, but the
Yeah.
roots, everybody that I could talk to, tree doctors, they all kind of said because of the pavement, it didn't get enough of what it needed, and it was kind of dying.
Yeah.
People thought it would resprout after the branches and everything fell, and they were hacking off branches that were already dead.
Yeah.
I think they were
Yeah.
trying to save it, but then I want to say this was prior to the Dollar General. I don't know. Somebody came in, and I want to say the owner of that facility, because I did a story on it for the Waterville Times so many years ago. He saw it as a danger, so they had to cut it down
because the tree was kind of coming
the
apart.
tree was
It
falling
dying
down. There was
and
branches
stuff.
all
Yeah.
over the place, but then when it did come down, there was obviously a big
A big uproar,
right?
Yeah. No, Kim, do you remember that when the tree came down?
Yes,
Upset?
it
You
was
must have been
horribly
very upset,
sad. I
was
wanted
upset.
part of the tree. Someone
Yeah.
had some branches, and they were going to make something out of it. I forgot who it was, and I didn't get it, so I don't know.
No, it's
But
too
yeah, that was a
late.
beautiful tree.
Yeah. So what other places in Clinton do you remember? What are some of your favorite places, Kim?
My favorite places, oh my goodness. Well, the Oriskany Creek, not Creek.
No,
the
it's
Oriskany Creek.
definitely Creek.
I think it's a crick,
Yeah, we're pretty
Oriskany,
sure. You're
Creek.
outvoted here.
Yeah, but I'm right. So.
Yeah.
But my friends and I would go out to Deansboro. Actually, we'd get in our inner tubes at the creek
Oh,
out there,
that's-
and we
that's
would
fun.
tube all the way down to Norton Ave in Clinton.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. We'd go as soon as it had 70 degrees, we would get in, and it's much too cold, but we'd do it when sometimes the snow would still be melting, so we
Yeah.
have really fast rushing water. It was so much fun. So,
Now, is there any place in Clinton or Kirkland that has a ghost?
Oh, probably my
haunted
parents'
place?
house.
Well, that's why I was leading you to this. So, what is it that you've seen and heard? Where do your parents live? They live
Well,
across
my
from
parents
basically,
live in the middle of the village across from the old camp.
and it's a very
movie
old
theater.
house, so it could
It's
be
200
this
years
kind of
old.
yeah. So now, what ghostly experiences have they had?
Oh, well, let's see. I don't know.
Zach, I'm going to ask you next. There's some scary stories or creepy
there
stories.
Are, well, listen, I do remember a light fixture falling on me once. I think that was a ghost.
Really?
Sometimes things
What did
turn
you
on
do to the ghost?
I don't know. I must have made
Did
it mad. I
something.
don't think they like the TV show I was watching.
Oh yeah, they get upset about stuff like that.
Yeah, it wasn't a good
What
show.
show was it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was probably Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, yeah, I can see it like ghost may not, especially a ghost from 200 years ago.
Yeah, they don't
What
like
is
that
this
at all.
crap? You know? So Zach,
Yes.
scary stories. Movie
I
stories,
don't have it. I don't believe in
mysteries,
ghosts. I'm
mystery
sorry.
stories.
I don't.
What in Clinton? What's the most curious thing that's happened? It's really interesting the presidential thing. I mean, I have no
We
idea
do have a
about
few
this.
presidential connections, not only
Yeah.
just the people who lived there, but there have been a bunch of presidents that have visited Hamilton College.
Oh, that's right. The college would.
College is there. Jimmy
Yeah.
Carter was there.
Oh,
I
yeah?
had some pictures when Walter Mondale, vice president, came through for the inauguration of David Whitman, who was the president of Hamilton College at the time. They were friends, so he stopped
Wow.
into town to give the inaugural address,
Oh my gosh.
which was pretty interesting. So I have some
Yeah.
photos of Walter Mondale. But, the presidents have, I think
Yeah.
Bill Clinton has been up there, Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
has been up there, but yeah, there's
Now,
been
what happened to the movies? Because I remember going there across from Kim's
That
parents'
movie
house. We
theater.
didn't know them then.
That was a 99-cent movie theater. They showed
It was.
second-run movies that was
Yep.
Ray, I could just look out the door and see if I had to get in line or not.
I saw Indian. I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark there.
Yes.
I
So
saw
many things
Terms
there.
of Endearment there. Yep.
And prior to that becoming a movie theater, it was a Grange. It was,
Oh, yeah?
Yes,
I
it was
realized
the
that.
Grange, right.
Oh, that would make sense, like a big hall, like a big space.
Right, and you know,
Well,
the
there's
Grange
a
was
sort
there.
of a big building next to that burned down. What was that? Was that a hotel?
So that used to be the hotel, and that
Like
was
on the
the
corner?
big, yeah, and that was a big fire in the '60s. That's in there. That was a very popular place, and on that day, it obviously burned, and everybody remembers the big fire there. But the Grange, after the Grange, it turned into more of a movie theater, and that's the last one that I remember seeing was Titanic, and then I think they closed.
Oh,
after
so
that.
there recently. Oh, so the
Yeah. I do remember seeing
Yeah.
Aladdin and the Titanic. Titanic was the
Yeah.
last one before it closed down, and I can't remember which year because I wanted to put that in there. I tried to look.
Was
The-
97.
like, yeah, I was gonna say like late '90s, so it has been.
And writing the book, I tried to do a lot of research on that. Like, hey, when
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
close? You know, and sometimes you just couldn't find it in the newspaper, and that could be because of the way that you have to search it. But a lot of this is based off of what people have already written about Clinton, and also the Clinton Courier,
What was your
which is out of
process?
business.
Like, where did you find this information? And
So
I'm sure from multiple
yeah.
people. and
Most of the
sources.
things, I mean, I knew where I wanted to go with the book, and most
Yeah.
of the items I knew about already, just having known the history of it.
Yeah,
But Richard Williams, who wrote the foreword
Yeah.
for this book, is the village historian.
he's very well known for his.
And he knows everything.
He was the
And
mayor for a while.
he was the mayor, correct?
Oh, he was.
He was. And so I wanted to get his blessing on the book because
Yeah.
he knows everything. Anything there's to know about Clinton, he knows.
Right.
But there were a few things that even he and I had questions about. You know, like when did it actually close? And then we would look in the Clinton Courier to try to find something. Sometimes you couldn't, so you'd have to find what other people have written about it. So we had to do. Well, Dick Williams has written a lot about. He does the newsletter for the historical, or he did for a very long time.
Yeah.
So we have all of his stories on record, which
Right.
gave me a lot of information. But there were also, Clinton is a very, for being so small, let's say fewer than 2,000 people in the actual village. We've had a few movies shot there.
Really?
You know, yeah.
One was recent.
One was recent,
What
right?
movies?
There was
Which
one
ones?
about a
Which ones?
lobotomy, and his name, he was in The Fly.
Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum
Yeah.
was here.
He's great. We like
He
him.
was he was at the Clinton Arena. The
Oh, yeah?
reason why they were at the arena is because he was doing a lobotomy. He was so he played this traveling lobotomist.
Really? A Jeff Goldblum?
Yeah, and in the first couple of minutes of the movie, they show a skating scene, and they needed like this older style arena, and Clinton happened to be it.
The Clinton Arena, yeah.
And prior to that one, or around the same time actually, there was Odd Man Rush, which is a movie based on hockey. And the producers of it, I believe their father was the hockey coach at Hamilton. Not Hamilton College, I'm sorry, Colgate in Hamilton.
Oh, okay. Yep.
We get that a lot, you know.
Yeah,
Hamilton
I
is not in
usually-
Hamilton. Hamilton College is not in Hamilton.
Yeah.
But they knew our arena because they played there as kids.
Yeah.
So they came back and shot parts of the movie there. And then the last one that we had was one of my favorites was the Christmas letter.
Okay.
Actually, I just
That
took
was
home. Yeah, that was this year. I took home for Broadcasters Association. I went out and I covered all of the Christmas letter when they came here.
Oh, nice.
So all the
nice.
behind the scenes footage
Right,
and things like
right,
that.
right.
So I actually took home best digital presents or something for that.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. And the reason for that is because they were very nice enough to let me travel around wherever they
Yeah,
were going. And
yeah.
one of the places that they stopped was the old Schwager House on Old Kirkland Road in Clinton. And they shot it there because the writer of the Christmas letter is
Yeah.
from Ilion. His name's Michael Cunningham. And he wrote the Christmas letter, and it has 3 of the people from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So we have Chevy Chase,
Super
Randy
Chase.
Quaid, Brian Doyle Murray, who I had a great interview with, Brian Doyle Murray.
Nice.
And that filming came into Clinton, and I was so excited because they not only used that old farmhouse where Brian Hussein, is that how you say his name? He's a comedian. He was there. That was the famous guy at that spot.
Yeah.
He was doing sleigh rides, SLAY rides. And then from there, I think the next day or that day, they went to the Stone Church
Okay.
and they shot a scene there.
Yeah.
So all of these, there has been a lot written about Clinton. I guess that story
Yeah.
was to tell you. There's been a lot written about Clinton. Clinton is, I don't want to say well known, but it's known.
Well, and it's also like known as very kind of artistic town.
Right.
You know, like the Kirkland Arts Center's there. There's a lot of culture with the college and stuff.
Yeah.
So has it always been that way?
From what I can remember, and actually that would be...
It's kind of a culture town. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Like you said, the Kirkland Arts Center, there's galleries that are there, all
Yeah.
of the shops that are on West Park Row, they all
Right.
offer something different.
Yep.
We have florists, there's artists up and down the street who have various studios.
It's a real college town. It has a nice vibe.
It has a little bit of everything.
It
And
really
actually,
does,
It's
yeah.
very walkable, which is
It
the
is.
best.
Yeah, it is walkable. Yeah. So now, Kim, when you were in high school, did you before you could drive? Is that what you guys did? Like, did you walk everywhere?
No, yeah, walk
Yeah.
and bike.
And you could go with this. So there's what we're doing in the town. There is,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
kinds of stuff. What did people do when they were like your age in high school? Did you?
We came to Utica.
So you got out of there.
Yeah.
But you worked at the store though.
Yeah, I worked at Great American as a cashier. Met a lot of great people
Was
there.
that your first job?
No, I did that in college, so '89 for a few
Okay.
years, and then my first job out of high school. My first job was actually I worked for my high school. I made copies for all the
That's
teachers,
right, you
worked in the
helped your high
office.
school, yes.
They paid me minimum wage. It was good enough.
That is pretty good. So really your first job was in town then at
Yeah,
the
it
high school.
was.
So
They always arranged it, so my last period was free, so I just did the work.
good for you. So how did you get the job at the store?
I walked in. I filled out an application.
It was different than you do on paper
I did. It
and
was a
stuff.
handwritten application with
Yeah.
a blue ink, and I gave it to someone, and someone said, "Hey, that's my father's
Oh, you
daughter."
had the connection. So
Yeah,
people
and I
knew
know,
who
okay,
you
when
were,
can you
yeah.
start? So
You
that
guys
was
are probably
kinda
good customers too after all the time.
Yeah.
which that's part of Clinton. There's people like that and people don't like that. That community feeling of everybody knows everybody and everything.
Yeah.
There are people who like that and people who don't.
Right.
But yeah, everybody knows everybody there.
Absolutely. So when we come back from break, we're going to talk more about some of the iconic spots in Clinton. And I'm going to ask you too. I'll ask you, Kim, like, what are some of the places if you bring someone to Clinton for the first time, want to show off the town, what's some place that you would take them? Zach, we'll talk a little bit about your career as a journalist with the Waterville Times when we come back from this break. This is Ron Klopfanstein here in the hot seat on a Media Monday. My guest today is Zach Lewis. He's the author of Clinton and Kirkland, Past and Present. It's a book that has pictures of Clinton then and Clinton now, comparing the landmarks to one another, the past and present. My guest is also Kim Meyer. She is someone who grew up in Clinton and has very fond memories of the place. And Kim, you're back for a visit. So what are some of the things that when you come back that you have to see or experience in your hometown?
Well, the first thing we usually do is get pizza from Tony's.
Okay.
Got to do that, but Tony's
Gotta do
changed
that.
management, so we were excited to try the new ones, and I will say
Nice.
100% good.
Oh,
The
good,
Tony's,
good.
I really liked it. They cut
So it's a good place to eat if you're in
squares instead of
Clinton.
triangles, but it's
Oh, they
great.
do it?
Yeah, I
Okay,
like it.
yeah.
It's very good pizza.
Nice.
So that's a plug for Tony's Pizza in Clinton.
Yep.
Go there, it's good.
So that's where you want to go eat first.
So I got to eat there first.
Yep.
And I have to look at the Riscony Creek. And
Okay.
and I wish I was
What's-
young
what's-
enough to
what's-
swim in the
what's-
swimming
What's a
hole.
creek? I've never heard of a creek. Are you talking about the University Creek,
Yeah.
perhaps? You know?
But we'd have to do a huge walk around the village as soon as I get in and see all the
Yeah.
old stomping grounds. And
What are some of the things that when you see that it really brings a smile to you? It brings a smile to your face and, you know,
oh, I love
joy
seeing
to
all the
your
little
heart.
stores and all the people out walking around and talking and having nice conversations, and the little kids going to school, and they're just.
It's
all
such a
very-
village. It's
it's-
like an old timey
Yeah,
kind of
it's
feel,
old-
you know?
It's what you
Yeah.
think. The way that is just a cute little town.
It really is, and the past
The
that
village,
it has
that's
is
right, it's not just the
fantastic.
village.
The village, yes. But in the future too, there's some exciting things that are going to happen in town. We're talking about over break, and
Yes.
what are some of the changes that they're being proposed?
Well, so I think you were mentioning before about my journalism career.
Yes, true.
So that's what I do.
So
is-
that's why you know so much about all this.
well, that, yeah, and when
So
I
why don't you tell the listeners what you
yeah.
what you
So
do?
with that, I write with the Waterville Times, and I take a lot of pictures for them.
Yep.
So when the Clinton Courier went out of business, the Waterville Times came in to start covering the Clinton news.
Right.
And Patty Louise, who is the publisher of the paper, reached out. She was my former professor, and she knew that I lived in Clinton.
Yeah.
And so she reached
Your professor where?
Utica College.
Okay.
Then it was Utica College of Syracuse University,
Now it's
but now it's
university, yes.
yes, now it's UU. And so she was my journalism professor, and she reached out to me when she decided to branch out into Clinton to see if I wanted to write for the paper, because she knew how much I loved the area, and I jumped at the opportunity because it's an opportunity to write down the history that's taking place.
True.
And being a reporter, the base of the word journalist is to be a reporter. You're reporting on what you see, right?
Yep.
So to be able to document the history that takes place in the village of Clinton is, I find, extremely gratifying, and there is a lot going on. And one of the big things is, as we go on break here, everybody's kind of throwing in different things we should talk about. But one of the big deals is, well, there's two. A few years ago, we took home Hockeyville, USA.
Yes, that was a big victory.
That was, and we were up against
A lot of money and came into the
there
town.
was money that came into the town. There was a full NHL game played on our ice there at the Clinton Arena, and that was a huge day for us. There was a lot that went into it. It went along with our 100 years of hockey.
Yeah.
So it just happened to be that it was 100 years. We won Hockeyville. I mean,
The timing was great.
and I'm not a sports guy at all.
Right.
Don't watch it. I don't know anything about sports. So, that was quite just not knowing anything about sports and watching it and just seeing everybody happy and involved in such a community. And the next big thing that we just took away was a few weeks ago, the governor announced that we won the DRI a few years ago now.
And what does that mean?
So the DRI is money from the government, from New York, from the state, which is still a
State government,
right? So it's money where we can put it into revitalizing various aspects of the village. And
Nice.
we're up against many, many different cities and towns and villages
It was
around
a
the entire state.
competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe Utica was a winner at one point.
Yeah.
So our area has been the winner of a few of those. Just, I want to say, Richfield Springs might have been another one that received money like this. It wasn't quite the DRI. So what they're hoping to do with the DRI is change the village green a little bit to make it to extend it and maybe make it more accessible as well.
Okay.
Not maybe, they are making it more accessible.
Like in what way?
More sidewalks, easier access.
Yeah.
And one of the ideas, which we were just chatting about, was that they're looking to put the green, like the grass of the green, kind of all the way up to Lombard Hall.
No, what's Lombard? Is that the fire department?
So Lombard Hall is next to the fire department.
Okay, so it's like extend like where there's a cutaway with the traffic can go.
It's not really next, it's kind of next and over across.
Yeah, like
the old post
I guess we'd say kitty corner.
Yeah, but we know like the direction.
Yeah, so it's actually 100 North Park Road.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking at it right here. Before that, there was the Park House, which was a tavern and hotel from 1800 to 1899. That was torn down, and in 1926, the finished product of Lombard Hall was there. And that's probably a very, very, I don't want to say iconic. I guess it is iconic. It has the nice, bell tower at the top.
Right, it's a beautiful, looks very historical. Yes, that would be a good description.
So there are, we were just chatting about, whether that's a good idea, extending the green up to Lombard Hall.
So what do you think, Kim, as someone who's an expert?
Well, I know that during the week, the parking lot's usually full. So as long as there are places to park, I know that I talked to people who are upset about the idea because they want places to park, and they don't think that's going to be very safe.
Now, do you think?
I don't know.
That like growing up in Clinton, do you think that it's wonderful how they preserve their look and their feel and the historical stuff. Do you find that sometimes maybe they're resistant to change, or is it
Like everyone is.
Yeah.
Everyone
Isn't everybody?
Especially when it comes to cars and driving and
Yeah.
parking lots. There was a big uproar here about complete streets, and it seems like that makes people nuts. You know,
Yeah.
so.
But then when it's done,
Then people are like, oh,
There you go.
yeah.
Right.
They're
why didn't we do this
always
sooner?
like that.
Right. Right.
So Kim, like, what are some of the changes that you've seen in your lifetime that you think have been positive about your town, the growth, and there's some new stores, new businesses that have come in, and what are some of your favorite things that are different now than they were when you lived here?
Well, there's
I like that candy store. We were talking
the
about that
candy
the other
store
day.
and the gelato store.
Oh, the gelato store, yes,
That's really
right.
good.
That is
It's not
really
ice
nice.
cream, gelato.
Right,
It's great.
right.
And my favorite thing, this isn't a new thing, but the events they have in the park.
Oh yeah,
Like the book
right.
sale and the strolls.
I believe
shopper
Zach's going to be
strolls.
there on 4th of July.
Yes,
too,
I'm
yes.
signing
Oh,
copies of the
this
book
is
if
the
anybody
4th of
wants to
July.
come.
Yeah.
They're going to have the 4th of July, they're going to have the parade, and then some sort of stroll and then fireworks.
So actually,
Yeah.
on the 4th, if anybody wants to come out to Clinton, we've got a full day of fun.
I'll be
Yeah.
there.
We'll be there, yeah.
The farmers market is going to be open, which is
Yep.
an every Thursday thing. And
Oh, so even though it's 4th, there's
Right,
I haven't
yep.
think that.
So
Nice.
I
All day
will.
event.
Yes,
Wow.
100%. So I'll be there at the market, and then
Yeah.
at 6:30 they're going to start the annual 4th of July parade, which
Right.
goes. I believe everybody lines up on Elm Street, and then they come down Elm Street, they turn onto College, and then they go all the way up to the fire department, and then they kind of go down
Yeah.
Kirkland and end it. But
Yeah.
after that parade, which usually about 30 minutes or so.
It's a nice parade. It's
Yeah.
not too long. It's
Yeah.
kind of the perfect
But they
length.
stopped throwing candy at people. So I'm
Oh,
sad.
they did?
So I think some still. I'm going to be there. I'm actually going to be in the parade.
Oh, throw
Oh,
some candy
nice.
in.
For the
Yeah.
Clinton Historical Society. So after the parade, the Clinton Historical Society in the village and the town, they have different, I guess, things that are happening, fun things. At least for the Historical Society, I know we're going to have games, face painting,
Really? So
trivia.
where will that be? In
That'll be right
the
on the green.
building?
Yep.
Right on the green.
Everything's on the green.
Everything.
So not in the Historical Society, out on the green.
Right, yep,
Yep.
right on the green. And from there's going to be other events that take place. I'm thinking they call it a summer stroll.
Yeah.
And there's supposed to be a photo booth and things like that. But I'll
Oh,
be
wow,
there
that sounds
signing
great.
copies
Yeah,
of
you'll
books
be
as
there
well.
with the copies
Yep.
of the book,
And then after that, there's fireworks. After that,
fireworks. Yeah, it's really is like a great place to celebrate the 4th because you kind of feel like you're in an old time, all
Yeah.
American Main Street, USA kind of a place, to see the parade, the fireworks. And another thing I really like, a tradition that you guys have, is the electric parade at Christmas time. I think
Yep.
it's like after Thanksgiving, the day
Day after
after, when you
Thanksgiving.
have the stroll.
shopper stroll.
Yeah, and all the fire trucks and the cars are lit up with lights.
The
And
snow plow that says think snow.
yeah, that is super impressive, that electric. There's a lot of great traditions. What are some of the traditions that you enjoyed the most when you lived there, Kim? Or that you enjoy now that you take part in? Of course, the
Oh, the
4th,
summer
but-
stuff and
Yeah.
the shopper stroll, of course, that we just talked about. And the band concerts on Tuesdays.
Right.
When I was a little kid, I would go to those, and all the kids would run around, climb the trees, and throw the crab apples at each other.
Yeah,
Playing the
yeah.
fountain and dance around to the music. Everyone would have their own personal stage in front of the stage. All the kids were dancing horribly to the music. So
Oh,
it's
that
a
must
great
have been
tradition.
fun. Yeah. So you guys would do stuff in the green. The green, the village green gets used a lot in that town.
Oh,
There's a lot
yes,
of
the
things they have.
main area.
And you were saying that the history of the fountain is particularly interesting. Zach, you were talking about.
Yep.
I was always interested in that marker that kind of says 10 miles to Utica.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I just wanted to go back to one of our conversations.
Yeah,
so, parades have not been a new thing for the village, but one of the newer things is they went a different direction. than we
Oh,
do. So
really?
they, in the picture on page 27, if you're following
Yeah.
along at home, if you're doing a read along here,
Let's see.
it opens up chapter 2, which is College Street and College Hill Road. This is for the Smith Hook and Ladder Company.
Oh, here's
They
a
had
picture of the parade.
Yeah, they had a parade,
Yeah.
but it goes the opposite way of how it goes
Interesting.
today. So
Wow.
I just wanted to add that because, yes, I mentioned parades.
I wonder why they reverse course.
I don't know. But
They
the
wanted to wear the pavement even.
Oh.
the green
Sure, they have
also,
their reasons.
West Park Road went the opposite way too, back
Yeah.
in the day. But the fountain that we were just chatting about, that is for the Houghton Seminary, and that was for their alumni came back and kind of donated this statue.
Oh yeah. So what was the Houghton Cemetery?
Seminary.
Seminary. Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that I have that one right because there were so many schools that were in Clinton, like we just said.
Yeah, it was so well known for this. Sort of.
Yeah, and the girl who's standing on a sea urchin, who I guess
That's what that
that's
is.
what that
in the
yeah, it's a sea
fountain.
urchin.
Okay.
And yeah, it's the Houghton Seminary Alumni Association. They donated that back in 1939, and it was in memory of their school. If you look at the arm of the statue,
Okay.
the story is that it's pointing to their school.
Oh really? Okay.
And so, with that statue there, the girl is standing on a sea urchin, and the artist who did that is Edward Berg. He has the same statue over at or Johns Hopkins University. Rather.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So that same statue that people either think is beautiful or ugly, you know, it's
Oh,
kind
some
of
people
hard
don't
to find.
think it's. some people think
Yeah,
it's
I don't necessarily think. I think it's an interesting piece. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if I had a choice, if that would have been my choice.
I guess I never really
But-
thought about it like either way. You know, just it was always something that was kind of there.
And then I feel like years ago too, there were people who were protesting it because of nudity and things like
Oh, because the
right.
statue is nailed.
This-
Really?
You got
Yeah,
a
the
picture
statue's new.
somewhere of someone put a hat and a sweater on it.
Really?
So
Oh
there
my
there
gosh.
is some there is a
There's
little
always
scandal.
there's always people. Yeah.
But actually during COVID, somebody fitted a mask on
mask.
her,
Oh.
which was nice. It
Yeah.
kind of kept everybody going. Even the statue has a mask.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we were going with that story.
I
But
have
that's
no
that's
idea.
what I know with the fountain
Well,
is that
like
there's
with
very
these
similar
stories,
one.
like what is it like? Because we both kind of have the same experience of being a reporter for like a hometown
Right.
newspaper. Hyper local is what they call it now. I
Yes.
worked for the Clinton
That's what I
Record.
go with, yeah.
During all those years, we were in in publication, and you wrote for the Marvel Times. What is it like to be a reporter for like a hyper local thing?
Well, it's a lot of knowing kind of everybody.
It really
when you go to a
is,
story.
right? And knowing the context of
Right.
everything that you write about.
You know,
Like,
I
people
work
don't
at a
always
bigger
give us credit for it, that-
Yeah, right. I work at a bigger TV station, and
Right.
let's say sometimes Clinton can get overlooked because it's so small.
Right.
So when you go into these, let's say town hall meetings or village meetings, or any meeting sometimes that nobody ever goes to, sometimes it's surprise that
Right,
somebody showed
right.
up to the meeting.
The,
Like, oh,
the
who is
only
this?
media sometimes that comes to this
Right,
and stuff.
right.
Yeah,
Sometimes the
yeah.
only media that goes to these small
right, or
towns
that sometimes that ever came.
right, are the hyper local newspapers.
Right,
Unfortunately, we have seen most of those hyper local
Yeah.
newspapers close.
Yeah.
So where do people in villages like Clinton or the town of Kirkland, or let's say
Westmoreland, or-
Bridgewater,
Yeah,
let's
right.
open it up to places like that.
Right.
Where are they getting their news when
Yeah.
these little newspapers start to close?
Right.
I don't know the answer to it.
Right.
It's
Right.
very hard because I find joy in reporting on what's going on.
So did I. It's like I was ready to move on to something at bigger scale, but for those years, I'd like to write about like stuff that happened right in town, and
Well, and I also
And
found
there's so many. The stories are interesting too. Like
Right.
every person that you write about, you find out they have a whole inside life that's fast. Like why do they do what they do?
and we have again such a big history, and this is why we
Yeah,
have a book and
right.
so many people have written about it.
Right.
Siri is from Clinton.
The voice.
The voice
yes,
of Siri, the
yes.
original voice of Siri is from
She
Clinton.
called me
Susan
on Twitter
Bennett.
for a while. I think.
Yeah, I was able to talk to her, and she did the voice. When we did the interview.
Oh my gosh.
But there have been famous people here, and
Yeah.
it's a great spot. We've got a lot going on that not
Yeah.
everybody gets to know about.
Right.
So that's why again it was also fun to let people
Yeah.
know these. There's going to be this potluck for
Right.
so and so.
Right. And you go to those potlucks, and really, it is the story that's just as interesting
Right.
as any big event that would happen here. And
Probably a more interesting story than anything
really,
that you could
because
find
there's so
national.
much like heart and passion in
Right.
what people do. So Kim, what are your favorite takeaways from your time as a Clinton resident, or looking back? If you want to give a pitch, like why should people come to see this town of Clinton? Or why should people come on the 4th?
Oh, Clinton, everyone should come to Clinton for the 4th.
Why?
Beat that. But no, it's a wonderful place, a great place to grow up. When you're a kid, you want to get out of there. I didn't want to be there when I couldn't wait to leave. So I left, but I didn't go too far. And when I was 23, I moved to Herkimer, oh, so far away, and lived there for 2 years, and then moved to Utica for 1 year, and then I left the state. But I still loved it so much, I come back all the time,
You come
and
back all the
I would
time.
live here if I could, but
Yeah.
I'm settled elsewhere, so if I ever come back, if I ever move away to a small town in New York, it's gonna be Clinton.
And every time you come back, you must feel like you're back at home. You
Oh,
know,
yeah,
it always
yeah,
feels like that.
definitely. I
So
come home
much
again,
of
see
the
all my
time.
family and friends, it's wonderful.
And so much of it looks the same. As it
Yes,
always
time
has,
travel.
you know. So,
Yes, time travel.
so Zach, tell
Yes.
us again what's happening on the 4th. What are you going to be doing
So the
on
4th,
the 4th
I
of
have
July?
2 book signings that anybody can come out to.
Two?
2,
Wow.
yeah. So one is happening during the market all day. So I'll be there with a
Okay.
tent all day at the farmer's market
Yep.
from 10 to 4. And then from 7 to 9 on the green at the Clinton Historical Society tent.
Yeah.
I'll be there also signing copies of the book. Anybody can purchase them there. And also, come out, get your face painted. There's trivia games. There's, throwing rings on bottle games. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening at the village and in our Historical Society tent as well.
And it really is a great place to be on the 4th because it does
Yes.
have that feel like you're
It
in an
does.
American type place, you know. It's
And everything's walking distance.
It
So
certainly is.
once you're
Yeah,
done with the
so
green,
perfect.
everybody walks to the school where the fireworks take place. So
Yeah,
Tell you how
right.
much I missed that.
yeah, right.
Oh, the
that's
walking
one of those
tent,
things
yeah,
you.
right.
Yes.
If that is a nice thing to be able to walk to all the places you want to go to. It is a walkable town, and all the park benches and stuff, it's like, but yeah, so 4th of July, the place to be is Clinton, New York.
That's right. That's
Zach
right.
will be there all day
I
at the
will.
farmer's market on the village green. Then there's going to be the parade. After that, Zach will be back with the Kirkland the Clinton Historical
Clinton
Society.
yes.
He'll be signing more books, and you can they do a lot of other stuff too. There's always food and games. And
Yes.
it's a really good place to celebrate the 4th. So, thank you for coming on the show, Zach.
Thank you for
Lewis.
having me.
He is the author of Clinton and Kirkland, Past and Present. You can buy that on Amazon. You can buy that at Barnes and Noble, I believe.
It's at Barnes and Noble now.
Kim Meyer bookstore, I think, too. I see.
Oh, did you? Okay. All
Yep.
right.
So you can buy this online or in person. You can also buy a copy from him on the 4th of July in the Village Green. Kim Meyer, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your
Thank
love
you
of
for
your
having
home.
Thanks for chatting. It's been fun.
Yes. Do you give this book your seal of approval?
I definitely do. I love those pictures.
All right. Well, you heard it. You got to go buy this. Clinton and Kirkland, Past and Present. Zach Lewis was my guest.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me in the hot seat on this Media Monday. I'm Ron Klopfanstein. Now I'm going to kick it right over to Jay Easy with an easy ride home.
Broadcasting from Big B Studios.